Hi guys, welcome to the Aging Games, where I talk about all things related to health, anti-aging and beauty, and especially for ladies over 50. So today I have a very interesting topic for you guys. We'll be talking about breathing, and we'll be talking about the Buteyko method of breathing, which is a very specific way to clear the sinuses, to get more oxygen into your blood, and it really helps with conditions like allergies and asthma. So I was first introduced to this method, which originates from Russia, by my very good friend Britta, who will be joining us on this video. And Britta is a licensed acupuncturist, and she's also a Buteyko practitioner. She's the best expert that I know, and I'm sure she's going to give us a lot of great information. So Buteyko method is very interesting because it actually, first of all, it teaches you to breathe through your nose, which is super important, especially when it comes to increasing nitric oxide levels in your body and thus getting more oxygen into your blood. And also it teaches you to breathe less, which is a bit counterintuitive because almost every kind of breathing exercise teaches you to take deep breaths and to breathe in more oxygen. So this is actually the opposite of that, and of course we'll explain why. Britta, thank you so much for joining us on my channel. I'm really excited to have you here. And I'd like to open up by asking you if you could tell us a bit of information, just basically what is the Buteyko method? For someone who's never heard of it, how would you explain it and what this entails?
Hi Lynn, I'm super excited to be here with you too. So thank you so much for having me and for putting this on so that we can talk about the Buteyko method. Yeah, what is the Buteyko method? Well, in a nutshell, it's basically a retraining of your breathing habits. And it's about recognizing and correcting dysfunctional breathing patterns. For example, breathing into the upper chest, breathing through the mouth. These are all things that contribute to ill health. And if you do this correctly over a period of time, you should see great health improvements. So it's for optimizing your health and for healing. And, you know, it's something that doesn't get talked about as much as other things like nutrition and exercise, for example, which we all know about contribute to our health and well-being. And a really good example of how the Buteyko method can be used for this would be to tell you about the founder of the Buteyko method, Dr. Konstantin Buteyko. He was a Ukrainian physician who noticed on his rounds that patients who were very sick tended to breathe very, very heavily. And he asked himself if the heavy breathing had anything to do with perhaps why they were ill. So he put his theory to test when he became ill himself. He had severe hypertension and he had suffered with severe headaches due to the high blood pressure. He decided to see what would happen if he actually slowed down and reduced his breathing. And that's what he did. And he noticed within a very short time that his headache started to go away. And as soon as he returned to his normal, deeper breathing habits, his headache returned. And over time, he was actually able to cure himself from that malignant hypertension. And so he spent the rest of his life researching this and helping people, specifically people with asthma and respiratory problems, people with heart disease, people with diabetes, all sorts of things that he found out that this breathing retraining actually could help. Now, it's not a new idea. It's found in the Yoga Sutras, it's found in ancient Chinese writings. For example, Lao Tzu was famed to have said that the perfect man breathes as though he were not breathing at all. So it is really about actually reducing your breathing, coming into alignment with your metabolic needs rather than breathing too much, which is what we tend to do in general, just like we tend to overeat and we do things in excess as a result of our modern lifestyle. Really is what it boils down to.
That is very helpful. Thank you so much. And if you could share a little bit about your personal story and how it has helped you. I know that you found out about Buteyko because of your own struggle with asthma. So we'd really love to hear a bit more about your story.
So yes, Lynn, you know, in 2015, I became very ill with asthma. And to the point where basically I could no longer function. I had enormous amount of inflammation in my lungs and in my sinuses. I couldn't breathe through my nose anymore. I had to stop working. I couldn't exercise anymore. And I went from being a really active, vibrant person to being a very sick person, constantly on cortisone, constantly needing to go to the emergency room, and really wasn't having a very good time. And in spite of my training as an acupuncturist and everything that I knew, I wasn't able to do much for myself, unfortunately. So I got to the point where I was just sitting on the sofa, barely able to get up to even go to the loo. And I was looking at my clock. Every 4 hours I would use my rescue inhaler because that was the only thing that would give me a bit of relief. But it's like taking an adrenaline shot. It really doesn't make you feel so good. It gives you palpitations, it makes your heart race, it makes you shaky and anxious. In this state, I decided to Google what else I could do. I was looking for solutions and I came across the Buteyko method and I thought, this just sounds too strange. Why would I want to breathe less? I'm already struggling to breathe. That doesn't make any sense at all. So at first I disregarded it, but eventually I got so desperate, I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. So I started to do short breath holds, which is all that I could do at that particular moment in time. And lo and behold, within 1 day, I was shot of my rescue inhaler. I no longer needed it. I haven't needed it ever since. That was in 2017. And so that really caught my attention. So I thought, well, I'm going to really learn everything I can about this. I signed up for an online course. I studied with Patrick McKeown, who's a fabulous teacher in Ireland. He himself was severely asthmatic and studied with Dr. Buteyko when he was still alive. Cured himself of asthma and is teaching worldwide now. And, since then, my quality of life improved very, very quickly. I regained my ability to exercise. I regained a lot of my health, thank you to the Buteyko method. And so I started teaching my own patients, especially those with respiratory issues and sleep problems and things that I know they could benefit from. So I'm really excited about the method, needless to say, based on my own experience.
Thank you, Britta. And also, what kind of other conditions have you seen improve other than just breathing difficulties? I know that you treated patients with different kinds of conditions as well, so we'd love to hear other things that the Buteyko method might help with.
So yeah, apart from respiratory disorders, which we've already mentioned, like asthma, COPD, allergies, sinus congestion, those sorts of things respond very, very well to the Buteyko breathing method. And then there are things like stress and anxiety and insomnia, the modern day illnesses that we tend to have. People who snore, people who have sleep apnea can hugely benefit. Also, it's just something that improves overall health because it actually improves your energy because it improves tissue oxygenation, and it can decrease muscle tension, decrease aches and pains, and it can help a lot of people who have heart disease, palpitations, even plaque in the arteries can go away as a result of extended period of practice. In addition, people who are physically active, who want to enhance their capacity for physical training, physical exercise, it takes a while to adapt, but even athletes, like professional athletes, are using this method now, and they're gaining a lot of benefits in terms of recovery time. Usually athletes like to live at high altitude because it enhances their ability to train. But the Buteyko method essentially does the same thing because you're actually learning to reduce your breathing while you're training. But as a result, I know it sounds contradictory, but you actually get enhanced tissue oxygenation. And so it's becoming more and more popular with all sorts of illnesses. The real aficionados for the Buteyko method, they're training really hard to get to the highest level of the Buteyko method. They say that at some level you become absolutely super healthy, like nothing can actually phase you anymore health-wise. I think overall it's a good thing to practice. Like I said, it's something that's been around in a lot of ancient traditions, and it is also something that leads to a profound sense of well-being and relaxation.
That is really fantastic. I mean, this really is a very versatile method of healing that can help so many different conditions. Now, Britta, I'd like to ask you if you could do us a demonstration, maybe just show us some basic breathing exercises, something that people can do with you right now as they're sitting there watching this video, and that they can easily learn and do themselves at home as well.
So I'd like to share with you a technique, a breathing exercise that is very simple to do, and it's very good for unblocking any kind of sinus congestion. It's also very good to wake you up because it increases your blood flow to your brain immediately. It gives you more energy and more clarity. And I just want to say a word of caution before we do it. People who are very sick or people who are pregnant, women who are pregnant, should not do very extended breath holds. And this is one of the things that we will be practicing. So if you fall into that category, I want you to take this exercise very, very gently. Don't overdo it. Don't stretch yourself. You'll just make things worse. You need to build up slowly, just like you would when you start out, with working out with something new. Just start gently, slowly. Don't push yourself. This is not a competition. This is just about how you can, over time, improve your health. Before we start with the exercise, let me just say that what the principles are of the Buteyko practice. So number one, I've already mentioned it. We always want to breathe through the nose. So this exercise involves nose breathing. So some people may not be able to do this. If you have an obstruction, a mechanical obstruction, I'm not talking about mucus or congestion, I'm talking about deviation of the septum or huge polyps in your nose, you may not be able to do this exercise, but you could try it anyways, because if it is just mucus congestion, it will actually go away very quickly doing this exercise. The second thing is we always want to breathe diaphragmatically. That means we want to breathe into the lower parts of the lungs, not into the upper chest. So you can do that by paying attention to your belly. It should move in and out very, very gently. You always want your breathing to be very calm, very quiet, and very regular, preferably slow. You want the breathing to slow down and to become so still that they say if you put a feather underneath your nostrils, the feather wouldn't even move. That's how quiet. This is the ultimate goal, okay? But this is the whole breathing retraining process. And in order to do all of that, we always want to maintain an erect posture. So as though you were sitting in a meditation, you want to have a nice straight spine. That will give you the most room in your diaphragm, and it will really allow you to actually reduce your breathing more and more. This exercise that we're going to do involves pinching the nose shut so that we enhance the nitric oxide concentration in the sinus cavities while we're holding our breath. And it involves movement. So we're trying to increase and enhance the taking in of nitric oxide and carbon dioxide, the buildup of carbon dioxide doing this exercise. And as I mentioned before, they'll open up your blood flow because they're vasodilating gases, and they open up your airways. So you'll immediately get this feeling of clarity in your head. This is what I find. I do this every morning when I get up. And it opens your sinuses very quickly, and it opens your breathing if you're having any kind of constriction, if you're asthmatic or if you have COPD. So the way to do this exercise is just after a normal breath in and a normal breath out, nothing special, nothing super big. You're just going to pinch your nose shut and you're going to hold your breath, and you're going to add some kind of movement. Now, if you're just sitting, you can just move your head up and down, okay? Or you could just move your legs a little bit. Doesn't matter which. The important thing is to add a little bit of movement, because as soon as you move, your muscles start warming up and your carbon dioxide production is enhanced because you're using more energy. If you're in good physical condition, you can do steps. You can walk while you're holding your breath. And what's important is that you do a couple of warm-up runs. So the first 2 sets are just going to be warming up. In other words, you're not going to push yourself at all. You're just going to go to the very most gentle need of air that you feel. As soon as you start to feel a little bit of a need for breathing, you're just finished, okay? If you're doing steps, you can start counting how many steps you do. So maybe the first set you might do 10 steps or 15 steps, depending on your level of fitness and your level of health. Maybe you can only do 5, and that's okay. So you'll just do that as a warm-up. Between each set, you're going to recuperate your breathing. You never want to hold your breath too long so that you need to gasp for air, and especially not in the first 2 warm-up sets. So you want your breathing to be almost unchanged. The next 4 sets, we're going to do it 6 in total. You can do 8 if you like, but you need to do 6 in order to decongest your sinuses and to get the full benefit of this exercise. So after the second set, you'd start to push yourself increasingly more. And again, if you're pregnant or if you have a serious health condition, please, please, please take this very gently, because you don't want to go backwards or hurt yourself in any way. All right? So between each set, you just relax. You try to calm your breathing as quickly as possible. And when you've recovered, which might take 20 or 30 seconds, you go to your next set. The whole exercise takes about 5 to 6 minutes, maybe 7 minutes, depending on your resting time in between and how long your sets, how long you can hold your breath. So sit up nice and straight, relax your shoulders, and just take a moment to see if you're breathing into your diaphragm. Try to breathe into the lower part of your lungs. You can put your hands, wrap them around the lower ribs, and you should feel them just gently going out and in and out and in. And just try to slow and calm your breath for just a few seconds to get the hang of this. And then after your next normal exhalation, just go ahead and pinch your nose shut and start. Just gently moving your head back and forth, or if you're doing steps, you can walk, or if you're moving your legs, just move your legs. And then when you've had, like I said, a very gentle need for air, you'll stop and you recover. You just calm your breathing as much as you possibly can. Try to keep your breathing regular and slow. And you'll go for your second set. So you take a normal breath in, a normal breath out, pinch your nose shut, and start moving. When you're done, you just recover your breathing, make it very gentle, very quiet. And then on this next set, you're going to start pushing yourself a little bit. So let's say you were doing steps, and the first 2 sets you did 15 steps each. Maybe on the next one, you can try for 20 steps or 25, again, depending on your level of physical fitness and your level of health. Maybe you can go 30 steps easily. Whatever your level is, that's the level you want to be at. Or if you're holding your breath and moving your head, you might want to, hold it for 20 seconds or something like that. And then the next time you might want to increase by 5 steps and so on, until you get to a level where you feel, you don't want to push yourself too hard. Like I said, you never want to gasp for air. Okay, so let's take another normal breath in, a normal breath out, pinch your nose shut, and go ahead and do your movement for as long as you can till you feel a medium need for air this time. And whenever you're done, just release your nose and again, calm your breathing. You should be able to calm your breathing within 2 breaths to completely back to normal. Otherwise, if you're taking 3, 4, 5 breaths to recover, you've probably pushed yourself too hard. So just take a moment to recover, 20 to 30 seconds or so. Relax. The more you relax, the easier it is. And we'll just do it one more time. Like I said, normally this is done 6 times minimum to 8 times, and that will give you the full benefit of this exercise. And even if you have a cold, you should be completely clear to breathe through your nose afterwards, at least for several hours. And you might have to do it again. If you get congested again, just go ahead and do it again. All right, so let's take another, just a normal breath in, a normal breath out. Pinch your nose shut. And keep going until you feel a medium need for breathing in. And then whenever you get to that point, again, release your nostrils and just breathe normally. And you should start feeling that you can breathe more evenly through your nose. And perhaps you'll feel a sense of, more alertness and so on. And then you know that you're on the right track. So again, this is an exercise that is very good to do whenever you've got sinus congestion, whenever you feel like you're having a little trouble breathing if you're asthmatic, but again, take it very, very gently and with very much caution.
Wow, that was really great. I hope you guys were all following along. And finally, Britta, if somebody would like to have more information on this, or they would like to contact you in person so they can have a personal consultation with you and learn more about this method, please let us know how they can reach you or where they can find more information.
So this idea that we all have that in order to get more oxygen into the body or into the tissues, we need to take a deep breath, we need to breathe, big breaths, actually turns out to be wrong. And this is based on something called the Bohr effect. So when we breathe in, we have a gas exchange that occurs at the lungs. So there's a lot of capillaries and the blood is going past, and the hemoglobin picks up the oxygen that we breathe in and then transports it to the tissues. Now it's supposed to release the oxygen to the tissues, where then the oxygen enters the mitochondria to be part of what's called the Krebs cycle, which then makes energy. And the mitochondria you can think of like the batteries in our bodies. And then as a result of this energy production, which is ATP, of course, we get 2 other products, which is water and carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide then gets transported back to the lungs and we exhale it. So most people think of carbon dioxide as a toxic waste gas, but it actually turns out that it's not, because for one, the hemoglobin will not release the oxygen to the tissues unless there is a good level of carbon dioxide already in the blood. So carbon dioxide has many functions in the body. First of all, it's a bronchial dilator, so it opens up the airways. Number 2, it vasodilates, it opens up your blood vessels, so it actually improves blood flow in the body. So carbon dioxide is really, really important. It balances pH. So any type of hyperventilation where you blow off too much carbon dioxide leaves you in an actual deprivation of oxygen to your tissues. And this might be completely counterintuitive, but if you look at the historical data of how much people used to breathe versus how much we breathe now, we can see that starting in the 60s, people started to get more and more breathing volume. And, we're not really sure 100% why that is, but the guesses are that our lifestyle became so comfortable, so sedentary, we had excess food, we had very warm houses, and maybe also we started to believe that, in order to get more oxygen, you need to breathe deeper or bigger, I should say, because deep breathing and big breathing are not one and the same thing. You can take a deep, small volume breath. You don't have to take a deep, big volume breath. We do want to breathe deeply, but we don't want to have huge volume of breath. So for example, a normal healthy breath would be about 4 to 6 liters per minute, 6 to 12 breaths per minute. So that gives you, a certain amount of air. I think it's about 500 milliliters that you're breathing in. An asthmatic, for example, tends to breathe 2 to 3 times that much. So they're usually breathing between 12 to 15 liters per minute. And during an asthma attack, trying to get more air into the system, people start to get anxious and they start to hyperventilate even more and take in about 20 liters per minute. So you can see what a detrimental effect that kind of overbreathing has. But the same goes for people with asthma, with chronic fatigue. I'm sorry, not with asthma, with hypertension, with chronic fatigue, people with cancer, people with any kind of chronic illness, they tend to overbreathe. And this is what Dr. Buteyko noticed, and this is what we're trying to correct. So it's a matter of balancing out your blood gases. This takes a while because the brain is used to breathing at a certain level. It's just like when you go on a diet, it takes a while to readjust to having a different eating regimen, for example, or eating less, right? So the same goes for breathing. That's why you have to train every day and you have to do it consistently and create new habits. There's another gas that's very important for health, and that's nitric oxide. And nitric oxide turns out to be made in very high concentrations in the sinus cavities. So if we're breathing through the mouth, we're missing out on the nitric oxide benefits, which are also similar to the carbon dioxide. Nitric oxide opens up the airways, it opens up your blood vessels. In fact, nitric oxide is what we give patients who are having angina pectoris pains because it enhances the nitric oxide. It's nitroglycerin. You know, you take the nitroglycerin and you get more nitric oxide into your blood vessels and they open up, so you get more blood flow. So we have this naturally in our sinus cavities, and we can actually harness it or use it to our own benefit for our own health. So it's really exciting because once we know how to do it, it really empowers you to take back your health through your breath, especially if you're having any kind of illness, especially if you're having problems like sinus issues and asthma problems like what I did. You'll notice an immediate improvement in your health. But I would say that everybody who takes it on would.
That is really fantastic. I mean, this really is a very versatile method of healing that can help so many different conditions. And finally, Britta, if somebody would like to have more information on this, or they would like to contact you in person so they can have a personal consultation with you and learn more about this method, please let us know how they can reach you or where they can find more information.
So yeah, if you'd like to reach me, you can reach me through my website. It's asthmawellness.com. I do teach the Buteyko classes online over Zoom, also in both Spanish and English. So if you're interested, just send me an email through the website, and I'll be very happy to let you know when my next course is on. Thank you so much, Lynn, for having me. It's been a great pleasure. It's wonderful to share this time with you and this information, and I hope it is of benefit.
Britta, thank you so much for joining us. This has been an absolute pleasure. I've been looking forward to this video for a very long time. And thank you for all the useful information that you've provided us with. Guys, I will link Britta's details below and also some links so you can find out more information about the Buteyko method. If you guys enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the little bell so you get notifications every time I post a new video.